The Project Gutenberg ebook of the Philistine. This ebook is for the use of anyone anywhere in the United States and most other parts of the world at no cost and with almost no restrictions whatsoever. You may copy it, give it away or reuse it under the terms of the Project Gutenberg license included with this ebook or online at www.gutenberg.org. If you are not located in the United States, you will have to check the laws of the country where you are located before using this ebook. Title: The Philistine, a Periodical of Protest, Volume 2, Number 5, April 1896, Author, Various Editor, Elbert Hubbard. Release date, January 6, 2024. Ebook number 72646. Language, English. Original publication, East Aurora, The Society of the Philistines, 1895 credits, Hikula 03 and the online distributed proofreading team at https://www.pgdp.net. This book was produced from images made available by the Hathitrust Digital Library. Start of the Project Gutenberg ebook. The Philistine, a periodical of protest. Let there be gall enough in thy ink. 12th night. Printed every little while for the Society of the Philistines and published by them monthly. Subscription, $1 yearly. Single copies, 10 cents. April, 1896. The Philistine. Contents for April, 1896. To a friend in time of trouble, Louise Imogen Guinea. The gold that glitters, Ouida Moods, Clinton Scollard. A Song of Solomon, H.C. Bunner. After Dark, Kenneth Brown. A Fable, John Bryan of Ohio. Thoughts, Charles P. Nettleton. The Passing of Clanging Harp, Frank W. Knoxon. Death. The Doorway, Alexander Jeffrey. Lines, Stephen Crane. Side Talks. Subscriptions can begin with the current number only. A very limited quantity of back numbers can be supplied. Volume 1, Number 1, 75 cents. NOS 2, 3, 4, and 5 at 25 cents each. Mr. Collins' Philistine poster in 3 printings will be mailed to any address on receipt of 25 cents by the publishers. A few signed and numbered copies on Japan vellum remain at $1 each. Entered at the post office at East Aurora, New York, for transmission as mail matter of the second class. Copyright, 1896, by B.C. Hubbard. Only a very few copies of that noble book, The Song of Songs, which is Solomon's, remain unsold. The price for these is now $5 each. The Roycroft Printing Shop, East Aurora, NY. The Conservator. Printed monthly in Philadelphia. Horace L. Traubel, Editor. Annual subscription price $1. All communications intended for the editor should be addressed to Horace L. Traubel, Camden, New Jersey. The attention of persons interested in Walt Whitman is directed to the Conservator, in which, along with the presentation of other views, affecting freedom, democracy, ethics, solidarity, there appear special studies treating of the significance of Walt Whitman's appearance in history, written in part by men whose personal relations to Whitman, often whose genius, give their utterances great importance and offer special reasons why readers of books and lovers of man cannot afford to ignore or neglect their contributions. Grouped here following are some names of recent writers aiding in the synthesis: John Burroughs, Miss Helen A. Clark, Richard Maurice Buck, Miss Helena Bourne, Oscar Lovell Triggs, Edward Payson Jackson, Hamlin Garland, Edgar Fawcett, Daniel G. Brinton, Lawrence Maynard, Thomas B. Harned, Francis Howard Williams, Kelly Miller, William Sloane Kennedy, Isaac Hull Platt, John Herbert Clifford, Miss Charlotte Porter, Wayland Hyatt Smith, Horace L. Traubel. The Bibelo. Mduxkvi. Those authors and subjects that many readers are glad to come at in a brief way, and who may be thereby quickened to direct their studies anew to the sometimes surface-hidden beauties of literature, will continue to find ample presentation in the bibelo for 1896. The type work that has made so many friends among bookmen, will also be fully sustained. In a word, the bibelo still proposes to remain something quite by itself, and out of the highway and beaten track of everyday bookmaking. Subscriptions for 1896 at the regular price, 50 cents in advance, postpaid, are taken for the complete year only. After March 1st, the rate will be 75 cents, which will, on completion of Volume 2, be advanced to $1 net. It is desirable that renewals for 1896 should be forwarded Mr. Mosier early, that no vexatious delays may occur in mailing. All subscriptions must begin with January and end with December of each year. Thomas B. Mosier, Publisher. Portland, Maine. The Lotus. A high-class monthly magazine of art and letters. Cover and poster by Arthur W. Dow. Contents for March. The Nature of Fine Art, Ernest Francisco Frenolosa. As to Stephen Crane, Albert Hubbard. Osada San, The Bride, Mary McNeil Scott. A Patron of Art, Diana Archer. Hawthorne, A Character Sketch, May Alden Ward. Altruism, Emily S. Hamblin. Etc., etc. 15 cents a number. $1 a year. The Lotus. Number 156 Fifth Avenue, New York. Meditations in Motley. By Walter Blackburn Hart. Meditations in Motley reveals a new American essayist, honest and whimsical, with a good deal of decorative plain speaking. An occasional carelessness of style is redeemed by unfailing insight. I. Zangwill in the Pall Mall magazine for April, 1895. Philip Hale, the well-known and brilliant literary and musical critic, writes, Walter Blackburn Hart is beyond doubt and peradventure, the leading essayist in Boston today. For Boston, perhaps you had better read the United States. His matter is original and brave, his style is clear, polished when effect is to be gained thereby, blunt when the blow should fall, and at times delightfully whimsical, rambling, paradoxical, fantastical. Mr. Hart is not always so good in the piece as in the pattern, but he is a pleasant companion, and I have met with no volume of essays from America since Miss Agnes Repler's so good as his Meditations in Motley. Richard L. E. Gallienne, in the London Review. Price, cloth, $1. Address: the Philistine, East Aurora, NY. Why not win one of these wheels? L.A. Delicatesse Company, exclusive makers of L.A. Delicatesse, a confection in cheese, offer either the Swell Newport or the Newport Belle, $100 S&F. Wheels, to the person who shall coin the greatest number of English words from the word delicatesse. Enclosed stamp for conditions and booklet describing the wheels. Please mention the Philistine. L.A. Delicatesse Company, Herkimer, NY. Announcement. The Society of the Philistines has made an arrangement with Mr. Walter Blackburn Hart, the editor and publisher of the Flyleaf, Boston, Massachusetts, to acquire and incorporate the Flyleaf with the Philistine. Under this arrangement the services of Mr. Hart will be retained by the Society, and he will henceforth devote his time and efforts to furthering the interests of the Philistine and the Roycroft Printing Shop. After April 1, Mr. Hart's address will be East Aurora, NY. All unexpired subscriptions to the Flyleaf will be filled by the Philistine, East Aurora, New York. The Philistine. No. 5 April, 1896. Vol. 2. To a friend in time of trouble. Believe the word our gentle augur spake, sweet are the uses of adversity. Sweet ever, and in naught so sweet as this, that though the heavens be barred, if we but hold an equal, tranquil, will-illumined mind, such greatness in us, laborless, must earn great answers, cheer from all created things, and interchange of love by natural right with the high few, a kinship not of clan. Be these thy present comfort. Like a man who tends a watch-light on the hills alone, at Childermas, and through a night so cold the red dots of the rowan berry twirl, incorporate with a small, stiff cone of ice, and the wind breaks his flail and swineherds here outside the pine boles crack with frost in the heart, thou shalt, ere long, upon a distant peak descry a doubted smoke, a likelier spark, a shadow shot across a glare, and then a spurt of flame that bears the undersea, and climb by much and more of certitude to praising God some other even as thou beneath his natal star himself maintains, and in salute of souls coordinate, there, till he perish, guards his lineal fire. Louise Imogen Guiney. The gold that glitters. There lived once in the East, a great king. He dwelt far away, amongst the fragrant fields of roses, and in the light of suns that never set. He was young, he was beloved, he was fair of face and form, and the people, as they hewed stone, or brought water, said amongst themselves, Verily, this man is as a god, he goes where he lists, and he lies still or rises up as he pleases, and all fruits of all lands are called for him, and his nights are nights of gladness, and his days, when they dawn, are all his to sleep through or spend as he will. But the people were wrong. For this king was weary of his life. His buckler was sewn with gems, but his heart beneath it was sore. For he had been long bitterly harassed by foes who descended on him as wolves from the hills in their hunger, and he had been long plagued with heavy wars and with bad harvests, and with many troubles to his nation that kept it very poor, and forbade him to finish the building of new marble palaces, and the making of fresh gardens of delight, on which his heart was set. So he, being weary of a barren land and of an empty treasury, with all his might prayed to the gods that all he touched might turn to gold, even as he had heard had happened to some magician long before in other ages. And the gods gave him the thing he craved, and his treasury overflowed. No king had ever been so rich as this king now became in the short space of a single summer day. But it was bought with a price. When he stretched out his hand to gather the rose that blossomed in his path, a golden flower scentless and stiff was all he grasped. When he called to him the carrier dove that sped with a scroll of love words across the mountains, the bird sank on his breast a carven piece of metal. When he was athirst and called to his cupbearer for drink, the red wine ran a stream of molten gold. When he would fain have eaten, the pulse and the pomegranate grew alike to gold between his teeth. And lo! At eventide, when he sought the silent chambers of his home, saying, Here at least I shall find rest, and bent his steps to the couch whereon his beloved was sleeping, a statue of gold was all he drew into his eager arms, and cold shut lips of sculptured gold was all that met his own. That night the great king slew himself, unable any more to bear this agony, since all around him was desolation, even though all around him was wealth. Now the world is like that king, and in its greed of gold will barter its life away. Look you, this thing is certain, I say, that the world will perish even as that king perished, slain as he was slain, by the curse of its own fulfilled desire. The future of the world is written. For God has granted their prayer to men. He has made them rich, and their riches shall kill them. When all green places have been destroyed in the builder's lust of gain, when all the lands are but mountains of bricks, and piles of wood and iron, when there is no moisture anywhere, and no rain ever falls, when the sky is a vault of smoke, and all the rivers reek with poison, when forest and stream, the moor and meadow, and all the old green wayside beauty are things vanished and forgotten, when every gentle timid thing of brake and bush, of air and water, has been killed because it robbed them of a berry or a fruit, when the earth is one vast city, whose young children behold neither the green of the field nor the blue of the sky, and hear no song but the hiss of the steam, and know no music but the roar of the furnace, when the old sweet silence of the countryside, and the old sweet sounds of waking birds, and the old sweet fall of summer showers, and the grace of a hedgerow bough, and the glow of the purple heather, and the note of the cuckoo and cushat, and the freedom of waste and of woodland, are all things dead, and remembered of no man, then the world, like the Eastern king, will perish miserably of famine and of drought, with gold in its stiffened hands, and gold in its withered lips, and gold everywhere, gold that the people can neither eat nor drink, gold that cares nothing for them, but mocks them horribly, gold for which their fathers sold peace and health, and holiness and beauty, gold that is one vast grave. Weta. Moods. To give my aching spirit ease yestreen I wandered out alone, the mourner wind among the trees made its reiterant moan. I hailed him. Brother mine, I said, near kinsman in distress and dole, thou art, in all thy drearihood, the echo of my soul. Then sudden from the boughs broke forth mad mirth as though from pipes at play, meseemed that east and west and north were out for holiday. And laughter bubbled up behind my dolefulness and overran, as shifting as the freaksome wind the many moods of man. Clinton Scollard. A Song of Solomon. Love, I have wandered a weary way for thee, the east is wan with the smile of the day, open thy door to me. My hair is wet with the dew of the night, that falls from the cedar tree, the shadows are dark, but the east is light, open thy door to me. The stones of the road have bruised my feet, the hours till morn are 3, thou that hast spikenard, precious, sweet, open thy door to me. Stay not thy hand upon the lock, nor thy fingers on the key, in the breeze before morn the tree tops rock, open thy door to me. My love is the fairest, the only one, the choice of her house is she, the height of the heaven hath seen the sun, open thy door to me. The holy kiss of my lips and thine shall the sun have the grace to shine, the hours foregone of the night are mine, open thy door to me. H. C. Bunner. This dainty poem, first published in Scribner's, has been set to music by that brilliant woman, Mary Knightwood. The Oliver Ditson Company are the publishers. After Dark. Central Park on Saturday afternoon and the Tenderloin District on Saturday night give one different ideas of New York. Rather different ideas, too, of New York society, if one happens on a night when any of the 400 bring up in the 30th Street police station. Then you see him whom tailors do not bully as they do ordinary men, but bow down to as one whose whims are to set fashions, brought in, covered with mud, by some cab driver who has failed to get his due from the drink-befuddled brain and the drink-emptied pocket. Those who come into the station of their own accord act differently. They take off their hats and tiptoe across the room to ask if they may go upstairs to the sleeping room, and if it is full they tiptoe meekly out again. Misery is very unostentatious. Worst of all are the old women, with their repulsiveness which almost prevents one from pitying them. I wondered, the other day, what became of all the pretty girls who walk Broadway and 6th Avenue at night. I think I saw in the police station what became of some of them. With the proud scions of aristocracy there is no humbleness. In some stages there is jocularity and affability, in some, haughtiness, but the end of both is the same. When the scion understands that he is to spend a night in jail, the horror of it appears to him something the gods cannot allow. He remonstrates with the police captain, he mentions his pride of birth and the shame that incarceration would be to such as he appeals to all the police captain's higher feelings one after the other, he speaks to him as one gentleman to another. His ignorance of the vulgar world leads him into strange mistakes. And the policeman laughs and encourages him to talk, if the night has been dull, and finally putting him into a cell, examines the inside cover of his watch to see if he has given his right name. About an hour after midnight, Detective Dugan brought in a pretty, fair-haired girl. "What is your name?" asked the sergeant. The girl leaned forward and her lips moved, but they trembled so she could not answer for a moment. "Fanny Kellogg," she said faintly at last. "Kelly?" asked the sergeant. "No, Kellogg," said the detective for her. "What's your age, Fanny?" asked the sergeant. 25. She did not look more than 20, so I suppose she spoke the truth. "Your occupation?" There were 2 or 3 reporters near her. She looked straight ahead and did not answer at all. The sergeant waited a minute, then he asked, "The same old thing?" She nodded, still looking straight before her. "Married?" Her eyes filled with tears. She shook her head. "That's too bad, Fanny, you ought to get married." He finished writing in his book, and then rang for the matron. The bell was out of order, so he sent a messenger. While waiting he said to the girl jokingly, "Couldn't you see that Dugan was a copper?" She turned and looked at the detective, smiling. She looked at him from top to toe, as if to see whether her judgment had been at fault, or whether she had merely had a case of hard luck. Dugan began to blush and Fanny smiled still more. She had a pleasant face, but in the smile one could see things that the face in repose did not reveal. There was some delay before the matron came. After the little joke on the detective had passed, Fanny's eyes again filled with tears, which she furtively wiped away with the tips of her fingers. Then the little plump matron appeared in the doorway, beckoned to Fanny with a stiff little finger of rectitude, and they went out of the room together. "It's a pity she shouldn't marry, she's a nice girl," said the sergeant. "She's pretty, too," said a reporter. "Her figure isn't good enough for me," said another. "Oh, I guess you'd take her fast enough," answered the sergeant. The talk was slipping down very rapidly. Few men consider chivalry a thing to be worn all the time. Kenneth Brown. The monk. A monk who belonged to a very wealthy order went forth to beg, pleading great poverty and distress to those from whom he asked alms. He met a butcher and a baker to whom he said he had eaten nothing for many days, and that he was almost starved. "How is it thou art so fat?" said they as they drove on their wagons. He met a tradesman and said he had not had any money for years, even from his youth, as he had long been a monk. "I have no money to give thee," said the tradesman, at the same time jingling a handful of gold coins in his pocket. "I pray Jesus to forgive thee that lie," said the monk, "for I hear the coins jingling in thy pockets." "If thou hast seen so little money in thy life," said the tradesman, "how dost thou so well know its jingle?" He met a fishmonger carrying a basket of fish, coming from attending his nets, to whom he said, "I and my brothers are perishing for want of fish. Pray give us thy basket of fish and go thou and catch others." "Go and catch thy own fish," said the fishmonger, "the waters of the earth are as free for thee to fish in as for me." He met a woman at her door, to whom he bowed low and made the sign of the cross. "Kind madam," said he, "I and my brothers are perishing for want of food and money. I pray you give unto us according as the Lord hath prospered thee." "Come in, poor monk," said she, "we have not much except my husband's wages, but to share with thee is to give unto the Lord." So saying she gave him half her savings, and when he made ready to depart she craved his blessing. "You may kiss my big toe," said he. Which being done he departed, and with a shrug of his shoulders said to himself, "Ah, if women were not so easily beguiled, we should be compelled to work." John Bryan of Ohio. Thoughts? Freedom. No bonds at all. Give me sweet freedom, cried the youth, but freedom dwells in naught save bondage to the truth. Sufficiency. With self and God, a cave may still be paradise, with God and self unknown, the world cannot suffice. Unselfishness. Work thou for self alone, and life shall die at death, for others live, and lo, death shall be God's own breath. Praise. The praise of some is manna from on high, but when all praise, 'tis time for one to die. Charles P. Nettleton. The passing of Clanging Harp. And so old Clanging Harp passed out. He did not die, and his case was not like Elijah's or Enoch's. Enoch left a spore, while Clanging Harp calmly and peacefully passed away, without striking a discord. Nobody had any idea where Clanging Harp was. Frossenbite had seen him the night before and they had drunk and been drunk, but where Clanging Harp was Frossenbite could not or would not say. The Knittin' woman, of course, acted like an idiot and went around to Frossenbite's house in the morning and threatened to kill Frossenbite. Nothing prevented her but Frossenbite. She afterwards told Shining Star and Shining Star's little girl Eva, that Frossenbite was not safe for dependence, even as a victim. Eva leered proudly and said she guessed it made very little difference anyway. Eva was one of those frail, delicate little girls, happy for their years, who grow up into frail, delicate women, wretched for theirs. Sometimes they have blue eyes, sometimes black. Eva's were green. Champiano are liked green-eyed women, and half promised to wait till Eva was old enough to be married to him, when he could get her off the stage. Shining Star was his stepdaughter's stepfather. By the second night after Clanging Harp had passed away, the editor of the Evening Code had gone back into society again, and was the center of a jostling cluster at the opera. Madame Frustra, the prima donna, seemed to incline toward the editor, and when his flowers reached her in her dressing room she was heard to murmur, "Poor Clanging Harp." That was really all there was to connect the Evening Code with the affair, and, indeed, Frustra wrote the editor a note saying that nowadays a successful actress had to forego wine suppers and skip to her hotel directly after the opera. She got out of town with her luggage before the stranding was discovered. Charming Bland, the hotel clerk, got himself into a devil of a fix, it was said, for hinting foul play and collusion between little Eva and Uncle Tom. Uncle Tom was a good enough fellow, though pale at times, and made a dramatic exit when the Chinaman lost his cue. Of course there was a tremendous sensation, and speculation of all sorts over what Clanging Harp's son would have done if Clanging Harp had had one. That led Pat Marks, dramatic editor of the Evening Code, to put on a copy and go behind the scenes to interview Ellen Squiggs. "Say, Squiggsy," he wheedled, "where's Clanging Harp?" Squiggsy went right on frizzing her hair with a curling iron, and said she wasn't no slouch and wasn't going to be bluffed by Champiano R nor any other dude. That made Pat Marks curious, and he asked Squiggsy if she really thought she could act. Squiggsy rushed at Pat Marks and ran the hot curling iron all over his dress shirt, making long, irregular scorches on the bosom. Pat Marks buttoned up his ulster and went out after the ball. Late that night a stranger walked up to Charming Bland, pulled off a false mustache and said furtively, "There, you idiot, do you recognize me now?" "Strings Clanging Harp, by God," remarked Charming Bland, "where you been?" Clanging Harp put his mustache on crooked, and they sat down at a table in the bar room from which Charming Bland could see anybody that tried to steal the silver card platters off the desk. Clanging Harp drank 11 cocktails before he said a word, then he put his finger to his mustache to enjoin maudlin secrecy upon Charming Bland and said, "Shay, ol' man. Want to know where I been? Ben zhgol cure, ol' man. Ja you wouldn't take me. Gimme some pepper there. And he spread himself, like a green bay tree. Frank W. Noxon. To the maiden the sea was blue meadow alive with little froth people singing. To the sailor, wrecked, the sea was dead grey walls superlative in vacancy upon which nevertheless at fateful time, was written the grim hatred of nature. Stephen Crane. Death the doorway. Let not your soul be saddened by dread of darksome death, immortal life depends not upon the mortal breath. Behold this worm, no creature more helpless can be found, yet this, too, has a future, by death upraised, unbound. It crawls its brief existence till summer's sun has fled, then lies in cocoon shrouded and, as a worm, is dead. But when the warmth of springtime breaks through its silent tomb, on radiant wings it floats on air, and sips the flower's perfume. And yet the self-same spirit that moved the creeping thing, now flutters in this moth's light form and on its rainbow wing. Out of the acorn's foulness that now lies here decayed, shall rise the giant oak tree, with broadly spreading shade, and every seed that's buried and seems to rot away, but proves that death is doorway unto a higher day, but proves that death is needful to loose the spirit's wings, and that all life is only the germ of better things. Alexander Jeffrey. Side talks with the Philistines, being soul easement and wisdom incidentally. I observe that the new woman still sharpens her lead pencil with the scissors. The Chicago Times-Herald, realizing that owing to emanations from the stockyards, the Pierian Spring might need a drainage canal, is making an effort to dam the obnoxious flow, by offering prizes for the very best machine-made prose and verse. The literary editor who was selected to do the damming has recently, in a marked manner, proved his competency for the job. He awarded the prize for the best original poem on the romantic subject, Chicago, to a young lady from Indianapolis who sent him a copy of B.F. Taylor's Fort Dearborn, which was an original and a favorite 20 years ago. When the editor's attention was called to the prehistoric flavor of the prize poem, he treated the matter with fine scorn, admitting that it was true, that there had been a writer of some local reputation named Taylor who had originally written the poem. He then intimated that any plumber's daughter from Indianapolis, who would thus attempt to deceive a guileless Chicago editor, ought to be well spanked. And straightway he impaled her on the turnspit of public opinion and roasted her like an articled literary chef, and in fact the girl deserved it for wasting her time in copying poetry when she could have employed it more profitably in making out her father's bills. The literary editor handled this matter so diplomatically that the proprietors of the journal rewarded him with an order on McClurg for a copy of B.F. Taylor's old-time pictures which contains the poem. In China there is no copyright law. An author's reward consists in the thought that he has expressed his idea and thereby benefited mankind. My reward so far for good work has been the pure Chinese article. Walter Blackburn Hart has engaged board at the Widow Blanarasset's, second door east of the blacksmith shop. At Johnson's grocery last night Hart beat old S.I. Emery 3 straight games at checkers, and that is no small matter. Aunt Polly, of the old school, lives with a niece who is a modern of the moderns. Hearing the expression decadent used in connection with sundry articles in the Yellow Book and the Chipmunk, she looked into the matter herself when left alone after dinner and the young folks had gone to see and hear the Scarlet Letter. She read until her spectacles began to quiver and her cap strings heaved upon her breast like signals of distress in a brooding tempest. The book suddenly fell with a dull thud. Decayed, well, I should say so, groaned Aunt Polly, as she began rocking in her chair at the rate of a mile in 2:40. What could she have been reading? It's a curious comment on our civilization that a priest in the Catholic Church should, or could, make himself obnoxious to a very large number of his townsmen by advocating total abstinence from strong drink. Yet this is exactly what the Reverend Father George Zurcher of Buffalo has done. It seems some merry brewers have been playing pranks on the good father by sending him cases of bottled lager with 4-horse teams, brass bands, and decorated vehicles. It was awfully funny to see the big wagons rattle up to the little house that stands beside the church, and then behold fat men with faces like full moons and noses like glowing oriflammes lug in the lager and deposit it on the priestly steps. Then other jokers took the matter in hand and sent hurry-up telephone orders for wet goods to be delivered at the rectory. But Father George is a bit of a joker himself, and at the same time is dead in earnest, as the true humorist always is. And now when invoices of Old Tom, or XXX, or Monongahela arrive, Father George walks out in sight of the people who have gathered to see the fun, solemnly crosses himself, murmurs a prayer, and proceeds to slam the bottles against the side of the pretty brick church. Slapdash, spang, bang, zip they go. Corks fly, red moisture flows, and glass covers the sidewalk like hail after a Kansas blizzard. Some of the assembled citizens laugh, some cheer, others look solemn and deprecate the waste of valuable goods that might be sold and the proceeds given to the poor. Still others, sadder still, with sensitive spirits, deem it sacrilege to throw things at a sacred edifice, and ask for Bible justification. But Father George, being a most unreasonable man, and a perverse, says that the best use a church can be put to is that of a barricade on which to smash bottles of extra XXX. In fact, he earnestly declares that his church was built with this special idea in mind, and that the foundation is so deep and the walls so solid that if all the demijohns in Buffalo were banged plumb against it, it would still stand secure. And the upstart of it all is that over 100 bicycle tires have been punctured in that block during the last month, and no wheelman feels safe from broken glass within a mile limit in any direction of St. Joseph's Church. So the police have notified the father that he must smash no more bottles in the street on penalty. And furthermore, on the statute books of the state of New York is a law known as the Bottler's Protective Act. This law makes it a misdemeanor to willfully break a beer bottle in the great Empire State. The Beer Bottlers Association, in order to uphold its dignity, is about to bring action against Father George under this law, all as legally provided, and the end is not yet. We now have the lotus, the lotos, and the lettuce. The latest is the prairie dog. Its hole is in Lawrence, Kansas, and it is patterned after the chipmunk. Verily, like begets like. The Drumticty folks are both good and witty. And it looks a bit as if that old idea that a joke cannot be gotten into the head of a Scotsman without trepanning is a mistake. Some say, though, that there is no such place as Drumticty, yet the same remark has been made about East Aurora. But Dodd, Rott and Company declare that Drumticty exists, and in their last price list they insert this poem, which they say fitly describes the land of Parich, land of chivalry and freedom, land of old traditional fame. May thy noble sons and daughters long uphold thy honored name. Land of simple-hearted kindness, land of patriotic worth, may thy virtues ever flourish, hardy clansmen of the North. No Scot has arisen so far to deny the allegations set forth, but an Englishman has, and he winds up with this: land of ancient bloody tyrants, sneaking traitors, deep and sly, land of thieving Hielan Tevils, kilted rogues and stolen kye. Land o' canny careful bodies, foes to a ungodly fun, those who sum up man's whole duty, heaven, hell, and number one. And now Mr. H. O. MacArthur, who edits the Bookman, has offered a reward of $7.50 for the name and address of the Englishman aforesaid. If Rider Haggard had been Lew Wallace, what would she have been? Conan Doyle used to print good things before he made a success, but now that he has found a market, what's the use? I have wrestled patiently and mightily with a volume called A Study of Death, by H. M. Alden, and have been worst. Any man who will chase Mr. Alden into a corner and get a plain simple answer to anything shall be crowned with honor. You may talk of all subjects save one, namely, your maladies, said Emerson. Yet in each issue of the Cosmopolitan Andrew Lang takes the public into his confidence concerning his bodily ills. The tendency to play flim-flam with their names is a penchant of the Inklings. No sooner does a mortal have a bit of manuscript accepted than he gives himself a middle name if he hasn't one, and drops it out if he has. Some in fact petition the legislature for brand new handles and have themselves rechristened by a priest, as recently was the case in Boston, the man's age being 36. Others add a hyphen and join two names with a philological integument that makes one think of the Siamese twins. The queerest freak of this kind perhaps is the case of the Gilder family Robinson. The name as it first appears on the parochial register is Gildersleeve. But when Judge Gildersleeve shot in the American rifle team and made a bad score at Wimbledon, the sleeve was cut off in certain instances. In other words, the name was raveled and worn with short sleeves or no sleeves at all, like a bodice or stomacher. Now that William Watson has been knighted, we see it is spelled Watson Gilder. But the latest development in this peculiar evolution is a letter from Sir William Watson disclaiming all relationship with the Watsons of America. The closing paragraph of this epistle is worthy of note. It is true that I was caught and knighted by the Queen, as a certain flippant American paper has put it, but any American who hopes to add luster to his name by claiming kinship with me should be caught and knouted. The London Graphic thinks that Judge Grant is not so great a man as his father, the General. That's a matter of opinion. The Frederick A. Stokes Company has issued a pretty book, written by Mrs. Walford, entitled A Bubble. I will prick it in my next number. If literature does not pay, we can still beg. If to dig we are ashamed. Union Down by Mr. Scott Campbell is not an imitation of Thistledown, as has been sometimes stated. And furthermore, is the Boston Library right in classing Thistledown as light literature? The lynx-eyed being yet on a journey, the chipmunk spells it Carlisle. Or is it only a pricking of conscience for quoting in dead earnest from the works of Carlyle, who now is only spoken of by scholars in connection with Imogen such, Abe Slupsky, Thomas Collins and Winslow Vorse? William Marion Reedy, who holds the St. Louis Mirror up to nature, is one of the strongest writers that this glorious republic contains. He has wit, and better still, he has humor. He writes with a pen that does not scratch, and in his ink there is a goodly dash of Attic salt but no vitriol. Yet when Reedy declined the Ph.D. offered him by the Chicago University, and said in his letter, "I hardly consider myself worthy to be so honored by Chicago's great institution of learning," was it tincture of iron or what? Anyway, Rockefeller's mad. A Boston paper describes Mr. Hornaday's book, The Man Who Became a Savage, as an artistic romance, penned by a man who believes in art for art's sake. From other sources I hear it spoken of as a novel with a purpose, written by a crank with a tandem hobby. The National Brewers Gazette calls it a musty piece of bombastic fustian, written by a ranting Methodist preacher. I understand that a movement is on foot in Chicago to treat divorce as a sacrament. And as a straw that tells which way the wind blows in the Windy City, please note that Judge Gibbons has recently issued an order that a certain man shall be paid $25 per week alimony by his former wife. Last week all of the Boston papers contained a large picture of J. Stillman Smith, secretary to Dr. Edward Everett Hale. It was explained that Dr. Hale is the author of etc., 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 and the reason that Smith is shown to the world is because he had a severe attack of influenza coupled with poster mania, and was cured by taking 2 boxes of Dr. Muckyroot's pills. Great is Dr. Hale. Great is Dr. Muckyroot. Great is Smith. I warn the public against a book called Youth, a Poem of Soul and Sense, by Mr. Michael Monaghan. It is dedicated to the true and the chaste, which evidently was an attempt to flatter me. But I'm not for sale. Still, I read the book, read it to her, read it through, and we two voted that it could not be safely recommended, for many people on reading it would be very much shocked, and the dear public shall not be shocked if I can help it. Portions of the book are addressed to the poet's wife, and several of the poems, the best, I believe, were written by her. Now, a man who is not enough of a man to do his work without calling in his wife to help him is not much of a man after all. That's just what I mean, and I don't care who knows it. And here comes from Emma Eggleston, Sumner, Iowa, something that is too choice even for my waste basket. Hail to thee, Neath Boyce. Suffering makes a sisterhood, and I embrace thee. The desire to edit every article printed in its columns is often a ruling force in the career of the presiding elder of a newspaper. Especially is this illustrated in the walk and conversation of sundry publications that pour out chronic sweetness at stated periods on the classic air of the hub. It is meat and drink to the modest literary aspirant to see himself in type, even if his effort is served with a few modifications in style. But when he beholds the offspring of his genius scalped on the crown, shorn on each side, and whittled down to a sickly wedge of small talk at the close, the swift flow of interesting narrative converted to a sluggish bayou with the cream ideas carefully schemed from its surface and discarded, he stares helplessly at the title and signature, which are all the recognizable features left, and resolves to become a kicker. Yet this is Boston, that sits upon her throne of baked beans sandwiched between hills of brown bread, and discourses to hungry souls on the occult sciences of philosophical research, and the inscrutable neverthelessness of the moreover. Boston, the mystic sea kine, wearing horns of pearl, a ring in her nose whereby wisdom leads her, and a board before her placid countenance on which is printed "Inquire within," so that even the ships in the harbor may read the sign and profit thereby. Farewell, thou press of a traditional city. Smitten on both cheeks by the blade of thy pruning knife, I withdraw my mis from thy sanctum and seek for it a field where its individuality is not thrown aside like a worthless banana peel. The world is wide, and if a publisher offends in this manner, though he may have been like one's right hand, he should be cut off and cast away entirely. The blue pencil has many privileges, but when it rides too high on the wave of editorial presumption, a halt must be called. Better the comforting printed slip that offers thanks to the obliging contributor for submitting unavailable matter for consideration and announces it returned herewith, probably unread. I welcome David B. Hill to the ranks of the Philistines. There are some things about the more or less disingenuous David that I don't like, but when he slings a pebble at the gluttony that calls itself public life in Washington, he strikes 12. It was Emerson who spoke of the riot of the senses to be seen in American hotels, and when Mr. Hill stands in the gilded bar room of the Ebbett House and asks, "Are we a Christian people?" the question is in order. My brother Anthony's little girl calls all medicine nasty stuff. The little girl much resembles her uncle. Not many grown ups know as much as she. She is very smart, which surely is better than to be big, for instance like Conan Doyle, who was described by that Barnum of art, James B. Pond, in his catalogue as a large man, weighing full 220 pounds. Now the distinguished veterinary, just named, besides lecturing, also writes on medical topics, putting his theses in form of novels. He just grovels in pathology and wallows in therapeutics. He is ever administering boluses to his heroes and emetics to his heroines and readers. In that story of a box stall, the Starkman Row letters, he displays vials, bottles, droppers, corks, iodoform gauze, trepanning tools, silver trichias, catgut thread, antiseptic cotton and scalpels. The man who can read 2 of the Starkman Row letters without being salivated shall have the Philistine gratis for a year. I beg of Dr. Doyle that he will read Science and Health by Mrs. Mary Baker G. Eddy, and forever eschew nasty stuff in literature. Brander Matthews' Little Tinkle is heard again in Harper's this month. He arrives with a belated vignette, in which he tells as usual all about many things. The Maverick's plan is simple. It doesn't tax the inventive powers, and at the same time it is capable of almost infinite extension, for it consists merely in describing the places of amusement and the familiar parks and street corners of the metropolis. Slight variations in the attenuated love story are necessary, and care must be taken to work in something appropriate to the season or that has a newspaper vogue, but all the rest is purely topographical. There is absolutely no end to it, for the hero can be made to have his emotion of triumphant or disappointed love at the football game, at the opening night at the opera, at a chrysanthemum show, at St. Thomas Church, or at the Duke's wedding, and in each case there is material for a separate story. It is a limitless sausage with link added to link, so it can go clear around the world, and the Maverick's world is small, anyway. The scheme is glorious, it is limitless. All up and down Fifth Avenue bits of romance can be woven into every block. A case of disappointed affection at Washington Square for story number 1, true love at the Brevoort House for number 2, hopeless longing at the corner of 10th Street for number 3, and so on up to Harlem. Call these vignettes of Fifth Avenue. They would be the first of the Avenue series, which when completed, would be followed by the Side Street series, and this in turn by a set of sketches arranged according to wards or voting precincts in the lower part of the city. Then take up all the parks in order, the theaters, the hotels, the music halls. You see, the breezy Brander is doing in fiction what has so often been done with success in our recent drama. His description of Carmencita's dancing, of a Broadway cable car, or Macy's by moonlight, corresponds exactly to the introduction on the stage of a live baby, or a really and truly fire engine, or a genuine puddle of water into which one of the characters falls with a bona fide splash, to the great delight of the galleries. The reader's simple heart rejoices at the recognition of familiar lampposts and L stations as the hero walks through 23rd Street and takes the 6th Avenue car to Herald Square. He loves to hear how the electric lights flicker and sputter, how the clock on the Herald building strikes 9, and how the cabs drive up and down, for sakes alive. He has seen these very things with his own eyes. He is clever, is the unbranded Maverick, to have hit on this method. It is a mind that can be worked without effort. To twaddle lucratively and prattle with profit, that is an art worth knowing. It brings the Harper smiles and the soft sinecures of literature. Of this issue there have been printed, in addition to the regular edition, 100 copies of the Philistine on Ruisdael handmade paper, with the advertising pages on Japanese vellum. These numbers are stitched with silk, have extra wide margins, and are bound in a special Holland paper, purposely imported by John Dickinson and Company, Limited, for this issue. Each copy will be numbered and signed by one of the editors. The price of these deluxe numbers is $1 each. Address: The Philistine, East Aurora, New York. The American, the leading exponent of bimetallism and protection in the United States. A national weekly journal, truthful, fearless and aggressive in the discussion of public affairs and other events of general interest, in which those who are literary, as well as those who desire to be fully informed on current events of public importance, will find what they want. Wharton Barker, editor. The American is fighting the battle of the masses against those who would fix the gold standard permanently upon the country, holding that the supreme duty of the American people is to conserve, protect, and fortify the interests of the United States. $2 per annum. Sample copies free. $3 for $2. Just think of it. For $2, the regular price of subscription, we will send the American and any one of these well-known periodicals, to date. Munsey's, Cosmopolitan, The Black Cat, McClure's, Peterson's, Book Buyer, Gotti's, Romance, American Sentinel, Farm Journal, American Agriculturist, Rural New Yorker, Art in Advertising, Ladies' Home Journal, Sunday School Times, American Gardening, National Temperance Advocate, American Woman's Magazine. The name of the subscriber must be one not now on our list. Mention this advertisement. The American, number 119 South 4th St., Philadelphia. Little Journeys series for 1896 Little Journeys to the Homes of American Authors. The papers below specified were, with the exception of that contributed by the editor, Mr. Hubbard, originally issued by the late G. P. Putnam, in 1853, in a book entitled Homes of American Authors. It is now nearly half a century since the series, which won for itself at the time a very noteworthy prestige, was brought before the public, and the present publishers feel that no apology is needed in presenting to a new generation of American readers papers of such distinctive biographical interest and literary value. Number 1, Emerson, by G.O.W. Curtis. 2, Bryant, by Caroline M. Kirkland. 3, Prescott, by G.O.S. Hillard. 4, Lowell, by Charles F. Briggs. 5, Sims, by W. M. Cullen Bryant. 6, Walt Whitman, by Elbert Hubbard. 7, Hawthorne, by G.O.W. M. Curtis. 8, Audubon, by Park Godwin. 9, Irving, by H. T. Tuckerman. 10, Longfellow, by G.O.W. M. Curtis. 11, Everett, by G.O.S. Hillard. 12, Bancroft, by G.O.W. Green. The above papers will form the series of Little Journeys for the year 1896. They will be issued monthly, beginning January 1896, in the same general style as the series of 1895, at 50 cents a year, and single copies will be sold for 5 cents, postage paid. G. P. Putnam's Sons, New York and London Quarterly. Illustrated. If Europe be the home of art, America can at least lay claim to the most artistically compiled publication devoted to the subject that we know of. This is Modern Art. Galignani Messenger, Paris. The most artistic of American art periodicals. A work of art itself. Chicago Tribune. 50 cents a number. $2 a year. Single copies, back numbers, 50 cents in stamps. Illustrated sample page free. Arthur W. Dow has designed a new poster for modern art. It is exquisite in its quiet harmony and purely decorative character, with breadth and simplicity in line and mass, and shows the capacity of pure landscape for decorative purposes. The Boston Herald. Price, 25 cents in stamps, sent free to new subscribers to Modern Art. L. Prang and Company, Publishers. 286 Roxbury Street, Boston. Russian Fairy Tales, translated by R. Nisbet Bain. Illustrated by C. M. Jayer. 8VO, ornamental cloth, gilt top, $1.50. Old English Fairy Tales, by S. Baring Gould. With illustrations by F. D. Bedford. Octavo. Cloth, $2. London, Methuen and Co. Shelley's translation of The Banquet of Plato, a dainty reprint of Shelley's little-known translation of The Banquet of Plato, prefaced by the poet's fragmentary note on the symposium. Title page and decorations by Mr. Bruce Rogers. 16 mo, $1.50. 75 copies on handmade paper, $3 net. Hand and Soul, by Dante Gabriel Rossetti. Printed by Mr. William Morris at the Kelmscott Press. This book is printed in the golden type, with a specially designed title page and border, and in special binding. Hand and Soul first appeared in the Germ, the short-lived magazine of the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. A few copies also on vellum. For sale by all booksellers, or mailed post-paid by the publishers, on receipt of price. Way and Williams, Monadnock Block, Chicago. 1 Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. Rendered into English verse by Edward Fitzgerald. This is not a mere reprint of the Bibelo edition, but has been edited with a view to making Fitzgerald's wonderful version indispensable in its present Old World shape. The following are special features that as a whole can only be found in the Old World edition, an entirely new biographical sketch of Edward Fitzgerald by Mr. W. Irving Way of Chicago. 2 parallel texts of the first and fourth editions, printed the one in italic and the other in Roman type on opposite pages, the better to distinguish them. 3 variorum readings giving all textual changes occurring in the second, third and fourth editions. 4 the omitted quatrains of the rare second edition of 1868. To the student of literature these cancelled readings are of the greatest interest and value. Via bibliography of all English versions and editions revised to date. 6 finally, 3 poems upon Omar and Fitzgerald, not generally known, are here given, just as in the Bibelo edition, 2 poems were there reprinted as fitting foreword and finale. 925 copies on Van Gelder's handmade paper at $1 net. 100 Japan vellum, numbered, at $2.50 address Thomas B. Mosier, Portland, Maine. A shelf of books. Little Journeys to the Homes of Good Men and Great. By Elbert Hubbard. Series 1895, handsomely bound. Illustrated with 12 portraits, etched and in photogravure. 16 mo, printed on decollage paper, gilt top. $1.75. The Elias Series. A selection of famous books, offered as specimens of the best literature and of artistic typography and bookmaking. Printed on decollage paper, bound in full ouzcaf, with gilt tops, 16 mo, 6 1/2 x 4 1/2 inches, each volume, in box, $2.25. There are 3 different colors of binding: dark green, garnet and umber. First group, the Essays of Elia, 2 volumes: The Discourses of Epictetus, Sesame and Lilies, Autobiography of Franklin, Thoughts of Marcus Aurelius, No Enemy, but Himself, The Romance of a Tramp, by Elbert Hubbard. 28 full-page illustrations. Second edition. Bound in ornamental cloth, $1.50. Eyes Like the Sea. By Morris Jokai, the great Hungarian novelist. An autobiographical romance. Translated from the Hungarian by Nisbet Bain. $1. G. P. Putnam's Sons, New York and London. Footlights, that weekly illustrated paper published in Philadelphia, pity, isn't it, is a clean, moderately so, paper, chock full of such uninteresting topics as interviews with actor and actress, bless 'em, book gossip, news from Paris and London, dear, old London, woman's chatter, verse and lots more of idiocy that only spoils white paper. It sells for 5 cents a copy, or $2 a year. Very special, send $2 and Footlights and the Philistine will be sent you for 1 year. Address: the Philistine, East Aurora, NY. The Roycroft Printing Shop at this time desires to announce a sister book to the Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. It is the Journal of Kahileth, being a reprint of the Book of Ecclesiastes with an essay by Mr. Elbert Hubbard. The same Romanesque types are used that served so faithfully and well in the songs, but the initials, colophon and rubricated borders art special designs. After 712 copies are printed, the types will be distributed and the title page, colophon, and borders destroyed. In preparation of the text, Mr. Hubbard has had the scholarly assistance of his friend, Dr. Frederick W. Sanders, of Columbia University. The worthy pressman has also been helpfully counseled by several eminent bibliophiles. The 700 copies that are printed on Holland handmade paper are offered at $2 each, and the 12 copies on Japan vellum at $5. Every book will be numbered and signed by Mr. Hubbard. Orders are now being recorded, but book lovers are requested not to send remittances until the volume is in their hands. The Roycroft Printing Shop, East Aurora, New York. Catholicity in Art. All's one, all's one. The critic learns, though hostile tastes be frowning, that poet's flame where Bobby burns, where, too, is Robert Browning. Walter Storrs Bigelow. End of the Project Gutenberg ebook. The Philistine updated editions will replace the previous one. The old editions will be renamed. Creating the works from print editions not protected by U.S. copyright law means that no one owns a United States copyright in these works, so the Foundation, and you, can copy and distribute it in the United States without permission and without paying copyright royalties. Special rules, set forth in the general terms of use part of this license, apply to copying and distributing Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works to protect the Project Gutenberg trademark concept and trademark. Project Gutenberg is a registered trademark, and may not be used if you charge for an ebook, except by following the terms of the trademark license, including paying royalties for use of the Project Gutenberg trademark. If you do not charge anything for copies of this ebook, complying with the trademark license is very easy. You may use this ebook for nearly any purpose, such as creation of derivative works, reports, performances, and research. Project Gutenberg ebooks may be modified and printed and given away. You may do practically anything in the United States with ebooks not protected by U.S. copyright law. Redistribution is subject to the trademark license, especially commercial redistribution. Start, full license. The full Project Gutenberg license. Please read this before you distribute or use this work to protect the Project Gutenberg trademark mission of promoting the free distribution of electronic works, by using or distributing this work, or any other work associated in any way with the phrase Project Gutenberg. You agree to comply with all the terms of the full Project Gutenberg trademark license available with this file or online at www.gutenberg.org/license. Section 1. General Terms of Use and Redistributing Project Gutenberg Trademark Electronic Works 1.a. By reading or using any part of this Project Gutenberg trademark electronic work, you indicate that you have read, understand, agree to and accept all the terms of this license and intellectual property, trademark/copyright, agreement. If you do not agree to abide by all the terms of this agreement, you must cease using and return or destroy all copies of Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works in your possession. If you paid a fee for obtaining a copy of or access to a Project Gutenberg trademark electronic work and you do not agree to be bound by the terms of this agreement, you may obtain a refund from the person or entity to whom you paid the fee as set forth in paragraph 1.e.8. 1.b. Project Gutenberg is a registered trademark. It may only be used on or associated in any way with an electronic work by people who agree to be bound by the terms of this agreement. There are a few things that you can do with most Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works even without complying with the full terms of this agreement. See paragraph 1.c below. There are a lot of things you can do with Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works if you follow the terms of this agreement and help preserve free future access to Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works. See paragraph 1.e below. 1.c. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the Foundation or PGLOF, owns a compilation copyright in the collection of Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works. Nearly all the individual works in the collection are in the public domain in the United States. If an individual work is unprotected by copyright law in the United States and you are located in the United States, we do not claim a right to prevent you from copying, distributing, performing, displaying, or creating derivative works based on the work as long as all references to Project Gutenberg are removed. Of course, we hope that you will support the Project Gutenberg trademark mission of promoting free access to electronic works by freely sharing Project Gutenberg trademark works in compliance with the terms of this agreement for keeping the Project Gutenberg trademark name associated with the work. You can easily comply with the terms of this agreement by keeping this work in the same format with its attached full Project Gutenberg trademark license when you share it without charge with others. 1.d. The copyright laws of the place where you are located also govern what you can do with this work. Copyright laws in most countries are in a constant state of change. If you are outside the United States, check the laws of your country in addition to the terms of this agreement before downloading, copying, displaying, performing, distributing or creating derivative works based on this work or any other Project Gutenberg trademark work. The Foundation makes no representations concerning the copyright status of any work in any country other than the United States. 1.e. Unless you have removed all references to Project Gutenberg, 1.e.1. The following sentence, with active links to, or other immediate access to, the full Project Gutenberg trademark license must appear prominently whenever any copy of a Project Gutenberg trademark work, any work on which the phrase Project Gutenberg appears, or with which the phrase Project Gutenberg is associated, is accessed, displayed, performed, viewed, copied or distributed. This ebook is for the use of anyone anywhere in the United States and most other parts of the world at no cost and with almost no restrictions whatsoever. You may copy it, give it away or reuse it under the terms of the Project Gutenberg license included with this ebook or online at www.gutenberg.org. If you are not located in the United States, you will have to check the laws of the country where you are located before using this ebook. 1.e.2. If an individual Project Gutenberg trademark electronic work is derived from texts not protected by U.S. copyright law, does not contain a notice indicating that it is posted with permission of the copyright holder, the work can be copied and distributed to anyone in the United States without paying any fees or charges. If you are redistributing or providing access to a work with the phrase Project Gutenberg associated with or appearing on the work, you must comply either with the requirements of paragraphs 1.e.1 through 1.e.7 or obtain permission for the use of the work and the Project Gutenberg trademark as set forth in paragraphs 1.e.8 or 1.e.9. 1.e.3. If an individual Project Gutenberg trademark electronic work is posted with the permission of the copyright holder, your use and distribution must comply with both paragraphs 1.e.1 through 1.e.7 and any additional terms imposed by the copyright holder. Additional terms will be linked to the Project Gutenberg trademark license for all works posted with the permission of the copyright holder found at the beginning of this work. 1.e.4. Do not unlink or detach or remove the full Project Gutenberg trademark license terms from this work, or any files containing a part of this work or any other work associated with Project Gutenberg trademark. 1.e.5. Do not copy, display, perform, distribute or redistribute this electronic work, or any part of this electronic work, without prominently displaying the sentence set forth in paragraph 1.e.1 with active links or immediate access to the full terms of the Project Gutenberg trademark license. 1.e.6. You may convert to and distribute this work in any binary, compressed, marked up, non-proprietary or proprietary form, including any word processing or hypertext form. However, if you provide access to or distribute copies of a Project Gutenberg trademark work in a format other than plain vanilla ASCII or other format used in the official version posted on the official Project Gutenberg trademark website, www.gutenberg.org, you must, at no additional cost, fee, or expense to the user, provide a copy, a means of exporting a copy, or a means of obtaining a copy upon request, of the work in its original plain vanilla ASCII or other form. Any alternate format must include the full Project Gutenberg trademark license as specified in paragraph 1.e.1. 1.e.7. Do not charge a fee for access to, viewing, displaying, performing, copying or distributing any Project Gutenberg trademark works unless you comply with paragraph 1.e.8 or 1.e.9. 1.e.8. You may charge a reasonable fee for copies of or providing access to or distributing Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works provided that, you pay a royalty fee of 20% of the gross profits you derive from the use of Project Gutenberg trademark works calculated using the method you already use to calculate your applicable taxes. The fee is owed to the owner of the Project Gutenberg trademark, but he has agreed to donate royalties under this paragraph to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. Royalty payments must be paid within 60 days following each date on which you prepare, or are legally required to prepare, your periodic tax returns. Royalty payments should be clearly marked as such and sent to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation at the address specified in Section 4, Information about donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. You provide a full refund of any money paid by a user who notifies you in writing, or by email, within 30 days of receipt that he does not agree to the terms of the full Project Gutenberg trademark license. You must require such a user to return or destroy all copies of the works possessed in a physical medium and discontinue all use of and all access to other copies of Project Gutenberg trademark works. You provide, in accordance with paragraph 1.f.3, a full refund of any money paid for a work or a replacement copy, if a defect in the electronic work is discovered and reported to you within 90 days of receipt of the work. You comply with all other terms of this agreement for free distribution of Project Gutenberg trademark works. 1.e.9. If you wish to charge a fee or distribute a Project Gutenberg trademark electronic work or group of works on different terms than are set forth in this agreement, you must obtain permission in writing from the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the manager of the Project Gutenberg trademark. Contact the Foundation as set forth in Section 3 below. 1.f.1.f.1. Project Gutenberg volunteers and employees expend considerable effort to identify, do copyright research on, transcribe and proofread works not protected by U.S. copyright law in creating the Project Gutenberg trademark collection. Despite these efforts, Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works, and the medium on which they may be stored, may contain defects, such as, but not limited to, incomplete, inaccurate or corrupt data, transcription errors, a copyright or other intellectual property infringement, a defective or damaged disk or other medium, a computer virus, or computer codes that damage or cannot be read by your equipment. 1.f.2. Limited warranty, disclaimer of damages, except for the right of replacement or refund described in paragraph 1.f.3, the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the owner of the Project Gutenberg trademark, and any other party distributing a Project Gutenberg trademark electronic work under this agreement, disclaim all liability to you for damages, costs, and expenses, including legal fees. You agree that you have no remedies for negligence, strict liability, breach of warranty or breach of contract except those provided in paragraph 1.f.3. You agree that the foundation, the trademark owner, and any distributor under this agreement will not be liable to you for actual, direct, indirect, consequential, punitive, or incidental damages even if you give notice of the possibility of such damage. 1.f.3. Limited right of replacement or refund. If you discover a defect in this electronic work within 90 days of receiving it, you can receive a refund of the money, if any, you paid for it by sending a written explanation to the person you received the work from. If you received the work on a physical medium, you must return the medium with your written explanation. The person or entity that provided you with the defective work may elect to provide a replacement copy in lieu of a refund. If you received the work electronically, the person or entity providing it to you may choose to give you a second opportunity to receive the work electronically in lieu of a refund. If the second copy is also defective, you may demand a refund in writing without further opportunities to fix the problem. 1.f.4. Except for the limited right of replacement or refund set forth in paragraph 1.f.3, this work is provided to you as is, with no other warranties of any kind, express or implied, including but not limited to warranties of merchantability or fitness for any purpose. 1.f.5. Some states do not allow disclaimers of certain implied warranties or the exclusion or limitation of certain types of damages. If any disclaimer or limitation set forth in this agreement violates the law of the state applicable to this agreement, the agreement shall be interpreted to make the maximum disclaimer or limitation permitted by the applicable state law. The invalidity or unenforceability of any provision of this agreement shall not void the remaining provisions. 1.f.6. Indemnity. You agree to indemnify and hold the foundation, the trademark owner, any agent or employee of the foundation, anyone providing copies of Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works in accordance with this agreement, and any volunteers associated with the production, promotion, and distribution of Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works, harmless from all liability, costs, and expenses, including legal fees, that arise directly or indirectly from any of the following which you do or cause to occur. A. Distribution of this or any Project Gutenberg trademark work. B. Alteration, modification, or additions or deletions to any Project Gutenberg trademark work, and C. Any defect you cause. Section 2. Information about the mission of Project Gutenberg trademark. Project Gutenberg trademark is synonymous with the free distribution of electronic works in formats readable by the widest variety of computers including obsolete, old, middle-aged, and new computers. It exists because of the efforts of hundreds of volunteers and donations from people in all walks of life. Volunteers and financial support to provide volunteers with the assistance they need are critical to reaching Project Gutenberg trademark's goals and ensuring that the Project Gutenberg trademark collection will remain freely available for generations to come. In 2001, the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation was created to provide a secure and permanent future for Project Gutenberg trademark and future generations. To learn more about the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation and how your efforts and donations can help, see sections 3 and 4 and the Foundation information page at www.gutenberg.org. Section 3. Information about the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation is a non-profit 501(c)(3) educational corporation organized under the laws of the state of Mississippi and granted tax-exempt status by the Internal Revenue Service. The Foundation's IN or Federal Tax Identification Number is 64-6221541. Contributions to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation are tax-deductible to the full extent permitted by U.S. federal laws and your state's laws. The Foundation's business office is located at 809 North 1500 West, Salt Lake City, Utah 84116801596-1887. Email contact links and up-to-date contact information can be found at the Foundation's website and official page at www.gutenberg.org/contact section 4. Information about donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. Project Gutenberg trademark depends upon and cannot survive without widespread public support and donations to carry out its mission of increasing the number of public domain and licensed works that can be freely distributed in machine-readable form accessible by the widest array of equipment including outdated equipment. Many small donations, $1 to $5,000, are particularly important to maintaining tax-exempt status with the IRS. The Foundation is committed to complying with the laws regulating charities and charitable donations in all 50 states of the United States. Compliance requirements are not uniform and it takes a considerable effort, much paperwork, and many fees to meet and keep up with these requirements. We do not solicit donations in locations where we have not received written confirmation of compliance. To send donations or determine the status of compliance for any particular state, visit www.gutenberg.org/donate. While we cannot and do not solicit contributions from states where we have not met the solicitation requirements, we know of no prohibition against accepting unsolicited donations from donors in such states who approach us with offers to donate. International donations are gratefully accepted, but we cannot make any statements concerning tax treatment of donations received from outside the United States. U.S. laws alone swamp our small staff. Please check the Project Gutenberg web pages for current donation methods and addresses. Donations are accepted in a number of other ways including checks, online payments, and credit card donations. To donate, please visit www.gutenberg.org/donate. Section 5. General information about Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works. Professor Michael S. Hart was the originator of the Project Gutenberg trademark concept of a library of electronic works that could be freely shared with anyone. For 40 years, he produced and distributed Project Gutenberg trademark ebooks with only a loose network of volunteer support. Project Gutenberg trademark ebooks are often created from several printed editions, all of which are confirmed as not protected by copyright in the U.S. unless a copyright notice is included. Thus, we do not necessarily keep ebooks in compliance with any particular paper edition. Most people start at our website, which has the main PG search facility, www.gutenberg.org. This website includes information about Project Gutenberg trademark, including how to make donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, how to help produce our new ebooks, and how to subscribe to our email newsletter to hear about new ebooks. The Philistine. Contents for April, 1896. Only a very few copies of that noble book, The Song of Songs, which I.S. Solomon's, remain unsold. The price for these is now $5 each. The Roycroft Printing Shop, East Aurora, NY. The Philistine. To a Friend in Time of Trouble. The Gold That Glitters. Moods. A Song of Solomon. After Dark. The Monk. Thoughts. The Passing of Clanging Harp. Death the Doorway. Side Talks with the Philistines, Being Soul Easement and Wisdom Incidentally. Catholicity in Art. The full Project Gutenberg license 137 138 139 140 141 142 143 144 145 146 147 148 149 150 151 152 153 154 155 156 157 158 159 160 161 162 163 164 165 166 167 168